Hello, everybody, and welcome into another Postgame Show Live. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. You can give me a follow right there on X or Twitter. I am here today with my co-host, as always, Gerald. You can give him a follow right there on X or Twitter, along with his Longhorn Pod. So please check that out. Also, hit the like and subscribe button, and let's jump right into this. Texas beats Clemson 38-24, a game in which Texas, again, dominates their opponent for, I would say, 3 quarters, and the game ends up a little bit closer than it should have. Gerald, let's start out with, you know what, let's be bad first. Let's start out with the bad here today. Why not? We'll get that off our chest.
You know, I think the bad for me, like, I don't even want to say bad, but, like, this was the best quarterback Texas has played all year, and Cade Klubnik looked like it. We said it in our preview, like, Klubnik is a dude. Played like straight up and down. So he's going to come out. He's going to put up a bunch of yards. And the Texas secondary struggled. You know, Clemson found some spots in the zone. They found some matchups they liked in man coverage and really took advantage of those moments where Texas was seemingly outmatched. And again, Klubnik is the best quarterback they faced all year and will continue to be, I think, at least until if Texas beats Arizona State, probably Dylan Gabriel in a couple of weeks. But like, Klubnik is a legitimate NFL caliber quarterback. Clemson has some legitimate NFL caliber wide receivers, and the secondary showed that, you know, they found some soft spots in the zone. There were some communication issues. There were a couple of spots where you saw Jahdae Barron and Jaden Gilbo kind of going back and forth a little bit. So I think that's probably the biggest bad. And then the injuries, I think, are the other bad that I got to highlight. You know, 2 really iffy Sark play calls resulted in 3 players getting hurt. So that's not great. We've got, like, you know, a week and a half, 10 days or so to hopefully get Jake Majors healthy and get Cam Williams healthy. We got to see. That's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear. I tweeted it out. Malik Muhammad was getting picked on that whole entire second half. Like, he was getting abused, and he was really the only one. Like, Jahdae Barron, lockdown as usual. I thought Taff and Makuba played pretty well, and definitely there was some miscommunication between the linebackers and safeties in some of those zone holes. You saw the linebackers and safeties throw their hands up or point at each other like, hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be here when you're over here. You saw that multiple times, like you said. So that's an issue with Texas in this game. I saw more miscommunication in this game than any game this year. And then Malik Muhammad just got abused. He just tried. I don't even know. It's going to be interesting to go back and look and what Pro Football Focus has him graded, how many yards he gave up. But I would assume Cade Klubnik had 336 yards passing. It would not shock me, and Malik Muhammad gave up like 120 to 130 of those yards.
It's going to be something to watch, for sure. It's going to be something to watch because that is the – and we are – like, let's be real. Like, we're kind of looking at pimples on a prom queen here because Texas won a college football playoff game by 2 scores and probably could have been more. But, like, when you think about what this game could have been and some of those gaps in the game, I've not seen Malik Muhammad – have that bad of a matchup with anybody all year, at least 2 years probably. So, and again, there were some moments where bad handoffs in zones and things that I thought that we were over at this point. So that's going to be something to monitor. Again, I don't think it'll be an issue against Arizona State, but with all the talent that Oregon brings to town here in potentially in a couple of games, that's definitely something to monitor.
Yeah, 100%. And the other bad that I want to touch on is I thought Sark got way too cute at certain points. Like, we were just mashing it down their throats. Yep. And for whatever reason, he wanted to throw the football. That screen that he used to run very well needs to be completely abandoned. It has not worked this year at all, I don't think. Where Quinn Ewers gets it, runs one way, flips back the other way. It doesn't work, and you got 2 guys hurt there. I think Wisner's fine. Like, I think, honestly, he probably could have went back in, but Jaden Blue was on fire, and whoever was back there was going to run versus that Clemson defense. They were terrible at stopping the outside zone. But Cam Williams is the bigger issue. I know I said a couple weeks ago it'd be interesting to watch Trevor Goosby at right tackle instead of Cam Williams because Cam Williams does make a lot of mistakes. And I thought Trevor Goosby actually played a pretty damn good game again, showing his versatility as well because he was our left tackle for a couple weeks. Now he's right tackle, and he looked pretty good. I didn't have an issue with that. The one that I could tell right away was Jake Majors. You saw Hayden Connor. There was a couple bad snaps there. There were either a couple low ones, a couple high ones. And this is another thing Sark should get more hate for. listen, you put an Arch Manning on that 4th and 1 call to take a snap from under center from a backup center. How many times do you think Arch Manning and Hayden Connor have exchanged under center like that? I bet it's not that many times. And you did that on a 4th and 1.
I'm going to say this, unless they're going to do something different with the Arch Manning package, I'm ready to sunset it, right? Like, if you're just going to run the same zone read every time, people have had that scouted, right? It's basic zone read. So like I said in the previews, that I need to see something mixed in. I need to see a pass, an option slant, a jump pass, just something. Heck, a wide receiver pop pass reverse situation, just something to make it less predictable. But yeah, that was that sequence you mentioned. The play before, it was 2 plays back to back where that play action bootleg reverse throwback to Gunnar Helm situation that got 2 players hurt. I guess it was a throwback to Travian Weisner. And then the next play where viewers threw the interception, Texas had been gashing them on the outside zone. And there are times where, like, my big knock on Sark is that he is almost like too smart and too diabolical sometimes. Like, and he got better at it, I think, in the second half, where it's just like, I want you to run outside zone left, outside zone right, outside zone left, until they stop you 3 times in a row, right? If they stop you once, it's a fluke. They stop you twice, it might be a trend. 3 times, okay, let's try something different. But, like, Texas was mashing them on the ground. They had no answer for Jaden Blue's top-end speed. As soon as he caught that corner, he was gone. So, like, that to me is something that to monitor, because Sark at times, and again, this is, looking for pimples on the prom queen, right? For 2-score win in college football playoff over Dabo Sweeney and Clemson, right? But like, there are times where Sark gets too cute, and that in the first half was a spot where Texas could have put that game away before halftime. Texas could have very easily put that game away before halftime, but 2 iffy calls when you're getting success on the ground, and now Clemson's back in it.
Yeah, and I'm always, another thing, we should have taken that 1 field goal to extend it from 14 to 17. I'm big on that. Whenever you can push it over another threshold, whether that's 1 score to 2 scores, 2 scores to 3 scores, and so on and so forth, you should take that opportunity. And I thought he should have took that opportunity when, I believe, what would have been at that point, 34-17 or something like that. He should have taken that. Listen, guys, I'm all for aggressiveness, but to me, just like a baseball manager, a football head coach, any type of head coach has to rely on their gut, number one, and first and foremost. To me, you should trust the feel of the game before you trust analytics, because analytics are just numbers based. They don't know the feel of the game. They don't know what the way the game's going and all of that. So I thought we should have kicked it there. Are there certain situations I don't mind going for it? Yeah, I thought that 4th and 1 at the end of the game, we should have gone for it. I didn't love the play call again because you're putting Arch Manning under center with the backup center. Didn't love that. But overall, I didn't mind going for that. That you were kind of in, if you're in caught in no man's land where it's like a 50-yard field goal, or you're going to get a punt and you're going to trust Michael Kern to down him there, I have no issue going for that. But other instances, you have to do it. There was another example in the Penn State SMU game, if anyone caught that. James Franklin went for it. I forget what exactly part of the field they were on, but it was like an obvious – they were on their own 25-yard line, and they went for it on 4th and 1. And I'm like, brother, SMU can't score on you. Why don't you just punt the damn football? And there's just some mind-boggling stuff with college coaches, and honestly, all coaches sometimes. I think a lot of it has to do with ego too. Because, listen, these guys are really good at what they do, and they want to prove that to people that, hey, listen, I'm smart. I can do this. Whereas, like, Bill Belichick's the best coach of all time for a reason to be, because if something worked, guess what, brother? I'm just going to keep doing it all night long. You're getting it. I remember that Colts game on Sunday Night Football. Here, you want 25 straight run plays? Well, stop it then.
I will never forget. This is my philosophy, and I learned it. My high school offensive coordinator was calling plays from the sideline, and he said, "We're going to run the same play until you stop us," and literally just called it over and over again. And we scored 4 plays later on the same play. I'm going to draw 34 power was the play until you stop us. He threw some expletives in there. But, like, that's what I wanted to see from Sark. Just spam outside zone until they stop you a couple of times, and then look at something different.
Yeah, and that was pretty clear to everyone. Like, if you jumped off Twitter after the second drive that Texas had, everyone's like, okay, they can just run the ball the whole game. We ended up with 292 yards rushing. If we ran more, we could have run for 400 yards in this game.
They did not have – there was a real world where they did not pass the ball a single time in the second half, and I would have been fine with it.
Yeah, and Quinn didn't play bad. Like, we can get to the good now. I thought Quinn played pretty good. I honestly think the Ryan Wingo one, you can debate. To me, could you have called pass interference on that? Yeah. But that was still a good ball to Ryan Wingo. There was another deep ball that was a pretty good deep ball as well. And he looked more mobile in this game. He looked more confident, and the interception wasn't on him. Like, that's DeAndre Moore. DeAndre Moore's had some issue with drops too, by the way, the last 2 weeks. He's dropped 3 passes, so that needs to get taken care of. But I thought Quinn was pretty good at that. If I was grading Quinn Ewers today, I think he was a B+ overall. I thought he was pretty good.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean the interception really wasn't on him. That went through the receiver's hands. I think there was a 4th down where Texas could have converted. They put the ball behind Matthew Golden instead of in front of him, and Texas converts there. So I think there are a couple of spots where we know what Quinn Ewers is at this point, and I think based on what we know of Quinn Ewers, like he did not make losing plays in this game like he has in other games. And I was worried in the first half. I put it out there on social media, like, are we going to get the head case Quinn Ewers after that interception? Because that next drive was kind of shaky, and then he settled back in. And so, yeah, I thought Quinn Ewers played fine. You know, if you told me pregame that Quinn only passes for like 200 yards, I'm like, I don't know about this one. But he completed 71% of his passes. Again, was a solidly efficient game, and they didn't need him to be. He did what they needed to do to win. Like, that's a good – and then we obviously have to talk about the running backs in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, the running backs were phenomenal. Jaden Blue, 14 carries, 146 yards. Trey Wisner in limited time, 15 carries for 110 yards. And I thought it was pretty interesting down the stretch. You kind of saw they didn't use Jaden Blue down the stretch because of his fumble issues. But honestly, we went to Jared Gibson, who has his own fumble issues, but he is much more of a bruiser, and he got the job done. So just a really impressive game overall. What do you think of them?
Yeah, I mean, it is – I said it in the first half. I was watching the game with some family. I was like, Jaden, that first long touch, I was like, Jaden Blue has been waiting on that play his entire career, right? Like, and we fans have been waiting on it because we know it's in there. So he caught that edge and he was gone. And there was just not anybody on Clemson's defense that was fast enough to even make a pursuit angle work, right? Like, he was faster than geometry in some of those moments. And so that's the best game we've seen from Jaden Blue there. Quintravian Wisner showed really good patience on some runs where if he was less patient, he gets stopped for a loss or stopped for no gain. Instead, he kind of hesitates, finds the right crease, puts his nose in there, picks up 3 or 4 yards. All in all, it was a good game, and I'm glad that they were able to get Jarrett Gibson some touches in the end, keep Wisner and Blue healthier, and get Gibson's confidence up. He looked good in some spots. Obviously, he's a freshman and has some more work to do, but overall, like, I'm really impressed. And again, it doesn't hurt that you have Kelvin Banks back and you can run outside zone behind him, right? There's no 2 ways around that. Trevor Gooseby looked good on the run blocking schemes as well on the other side. So, like, the ground game, again, Clemson was not a great rush defense, but that's what you're supposed to do against bad rush defenses.
Yeah, we gashed them. And that's the thing, too, I think people need to realize. Like, this team, once we got past the first, 4 or 5 weeks of the season, has been pretty damn good on the ground. They've really only struggled with 2 teams or 2 games in the one team, and that's Georgia. Everyone else, we've been pretty damn good against. We gashed A&M. They're going to have a lot of NFL players. I think they have more NFL players now that I've watched Clemson on their front 4 and even front 7. And like you said, yeah, Clemson's speed. I remember Isaiah Simmons was like one of the most athletic players I've ever seen on the defensive side of the ball. They have no one near that athletic. So I'm like, nowhere close. Sammy Brown's he's a good athlete, but he's not fast sideline to sideline. Barrett Carter's really not that fast sideline to sideline. TJ Parker, I didn't even hear his name called the whole damn game. I don't know what happened to him. Kelvin Banks must have had him. Yeah, Kelvin Banks must have put him in hell because I didn't see him at all. But yeah, to me, I'm most worried about Jake Majors going forward. We need him back. I will say this. He was walking on the sidelines. He looked fine. Again, this could have been a precautionary thing because Sark's like, listen, we can still move the ball. So that's going to be interesting. But overall, I thought on defense, I want to give a shout out to the defensive line. I thought played a really good game. I thought they were definitely the best unit so far. They had multiple sacks in this game. You saw Ethan Burke get after the quarterback. You saw Colin Simmons get after got after the quarterback. What'd you think about them?
Yeah, I think the name that I want to praise specifically defensive line this week is Bill Norton. Bill Norton got in there and did the dirty work. Like, that guy was just like, I'm going to sit my big behind in multiple holes and just hold things up. Like, Bill Norton played a great game. We didn't see a ton from, like, Collins and Broughton, but when they flashed a couple of times in this game, this was a very, like, unit-driven game from the defensive line. Darren Sorrell had a good play. I think he had a sack or an early sack on Klubnik to kind of set the tone. Because Klubnik doesn't get sacked a whole lot. Or I guess he doesn't. He's more mobile than you see. But like they got after 7 sacks, 8 pass breakups. So there were a couple batted down balls at the line like from them. So all in all, I think the defensive line played really, really well and did exactly what Texas needed to do. Now Clemson is banged up at the running back position, so you have to take that into account. Like they just can't freaking run the ball. But they did. The defensive line again did what you're supposed to do against banged up teams and just held them in check.
Yeah, there was only one big run, and it was by Edwards, right? Their wide receiver that put in the backfield, or Will Randall, sorry. Mm-hmm. They put in the backfield. He had gashed us for like a 25, 30-yard run, but after that, we shut him down. And that's basically what this Texas defense does. They'll give up like one big run a game, then it's 3-4 yards. That's all you're really going to get. I mean, secondary, we already talked on that, and that's the bad.
I have my issues with that big run. When you watch the replay, if you go back and rewatch the game,
Leandro Leifau, yeah,
by 2. That was his run fit. I was like, "Where's Leifau?" 2 holds, 1 player held by 2 different guys on that run. I'm still mad about it.
Yeah, they didn't call holding on any. I don't think any team got an offensive holding penalty.
Either team, if you're going to let them play, let them play. Just do it both ways. Like that's always my philosophy. If you're going to call it, if you're going to let them play, great. It's football. Let them play. Just call it both ways.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then Avion Terrell just gets way too handsy. Like people don't realize you can get handsy early on in the route, obviously 5 yards and in, but also referees will let you play before the ball gets in the air. But as soon as the ball's in the air, if you're going to hold on to someone's jersey, you're going to get called for that. Yeah. It was Malik Muhammad. It was kind of weird. They both were in position most of the game, but they got way too handsy at the wrong time or didn't turn around when the ball was in the air. So they both had really bad games on both sides of the ball for each of those defenses. Also, Gunnar Helm, fantastic game. I'm glad we got him more involved. I don't understand at certain points during games when he doesn't have any touches. So 6 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. What do you think about him?
I mean, Gunnar Helm was Gunnar Helm. I think we know what he is. He's a very the athleticism that he displays, continues to display. He is, I don't want to call him like the perfect tight end, but he's like my ideal tight end, where he's a guy who can make those flashy pass plays, but also he's going to be an inline blocker and a plus blocker for them at that. And so, I think of obviously the touchdown pass where Ewers threw a dime to the spot where only Helm could get it. Helm went up and brought it in. Great hands, catch, extension, got the feet in. Like he continues to improve his draft stock. I think he's going to test really well. Like he's turning himself into a legit like mid to early mid-round pick, and more power to him.
Yeah, at this point, I think he's probably like a late second-round pick, honestly, because he's a good blocker, good with his hands, and this tight end class is good. It's not great. Like I'm trying to think, if he tests well, he could probably be tight end 2. I think Colson Loveland's kind of locked into tight end 1 at this point, but I think he could be tight end 2 in this class. He's really good.
Yeah, old boy from Penn State probably has something to say.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Tyler Warren. Yeah, I forgot about him.
So tight end 3 is still not bad.
No, and that's what's crazy. Like 2 years ago, I was like, I don't really know. I think he's probably like a 6th or 7th round pick. Then I watched him when Jatavian Sanders got hurt last year. I was like, oh, this guy's like more of a 3rd or 4th round pick. And then this year, I had him as my breakout player after I saw him last year, and he's exceeded my expectations. Like he's going to get drafted way higher than Jatavian Sanders did. Which, if you would have told people that when they both stepped on campus, they would have laughed at you. But he's just a better overall tight end. And Jadavian Sanders, before he got hurt with the Panthers, was playing pretty well. So I'm excited to see where Gunnar Helm goes. I think he's a guy that's probably going to last like 15 years in the NFL just because he's got reliable hands. He's a good blocker. He seems like a really good leader also in the locker room. So just overall, we're going to miss him.
It's very, and this is like unfair comparison, but it's very like David Thomas-esque, where it's just like he's not the flashiest guy in the world. He'll make a wow play every now and again, but ultimately, like the quarterback release valve, sure-handed, like, and then he'll make some plays in the block, and folks like to be around him. So, like, I very much see his like career being like David Thomas in New England, where it's just like he's there forever, not the best tight end in the league, but consistent threat, and continues to play football.
I kind of compared him to like because people don't realize when Jason Witten came out, he was super athletic. I kind of compare him to like a 7th year, 8th year Jason Witten, where the wheels aren't all there, but he's really smart and just gets open, and he has the most reliable hands probably ever for a tight end. Jason Witten. Obviously Gunnar Helm doesn't have that, but he's pretty damn reliable. I think he's only dropped 1 pass this whole year, so he's been really special. Overall, I mean, Bert Auburn, I think he had one kick in this game, I believe, and he made it. So that's good. Yeah, it was only 22.
We did. I said it in the preview. I don't want to notice the special teams. There was one spot I noticed special teams. That one muffed punt. That's it. I didn't notice the special teams at all, which is great.
Hey, maybe we should just tell Silas Bolden to dive on every special teams punt, because when he dives, he catches it. But when he's standing up or anything like that, he drops it. So,
and your own player running into you, what the heck? Like, get it together.
Yeah, that was definitely on Juan Davis. Like, the only time, and it's weird though. Like, I've never seen anyone do that much. Where I've seen guys dive for punts before, like once in a while. Silas Bolden dives for like every other punt. Like every other punch is, you know what? I'm going to dive for this one.
Maybe he needs more drama in other areas of his life. Can we get him into horror movies, or like get him a toxic romantic partner or something? I need the drama elsewhere. Get it elsewhere in your life.
Yeah, and I thought honestly we'd probably see him a little bit more in this game. He only had the one catch. I thought he'd have a couple more. Ryan Wingo, I do have to say, because I got to point this out. He's a really good player. He's a good player. He's going to be a really good player. But I know there were comparisons between him and Jeremiah Smith early on, and no offense, they cannot be made, because Ryan Wingo got pushed around a little bit today. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but when he was going one-on-one with the corner, you could see when you got physical with him, he just he didn't melt, but he just couldn't keep up with the physicality, I thought.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think he's a guy who I think Texas who has a very bright future in Texas. And again, he's a young player. He's a young receiver. I'm going to be interested. He and DeAndre Moore both, I think, had their rougher games of the season, I guess, from what we've seen from them. And part of the increased role is that Isaiah Bond is injured. So will he be back? For the next round game, we'll see. Does Texas need him back for that? We'll probably talk about that on Monday. But those two guys, Ryan Wingo, definitely. I think, and we obviously have to talk about the interception that went through DeAndre Moore's hands on that one. Like that's inexcusable, right? So those are things that, again, little things that could have changed the outcome of the game significantly.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it's going to be interesting, because how many days would that be? We have another 10 days till we play Arizona State. And then you basically got 2 weeks, so that's 24 days. So he'd probably have basically almost 4 weeks to rest. I don't know how severe his ankle sprain is. I've had like a super severe ankle sprain from playing basketball. Like, I'm talking grade 2 high ankle sprain, and it took me a month to just get back to where I can like push off. I could walk around after 10 days, but there's no chance I was able to play basketball. I'm assuming he's a way better athlete than I am. So he'll be close. I don't know if he will go, but he'll be very close to going. He'll definitely be able to go versus if we do win that game, because I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because this team does way too many weird things for me to say, hey, we can 100% beat Arizona State. Should we? Yes, we should. But there's multiple things in this game where Silas Bolden drops that punt, they recover it, or if that truly is a pick six, this game could have gone a different way. It really could have, just because this team shoots themselves in the foot. But he might be able to go, but it's going to be interesting if his first game back is versus like an Oregon, Ohio State, or Tennessee. I don't really love that. That's going coming from the IR and getting thrown into like basically NFL competition. I'm not a big fan of.
I mean, if he wants to play in the league, that's what you're going to have to do.
Yeah, true. But again, another guy, I got to shout out this guy, because he's just Mr. Consistent. Matthew Golden had a really good game. The throw behind him on fourth down wasn't on him. Should he have caught it? I think he should have, but Quinn Ewers, you got to put that out in front of him. It's a very easy throw. You got to make that throw.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, it hit him in the hand, so yes, he should catch it. That's your job. But also, like, if that ball's put on the money, that's more than a first down. That is 15, 20-yard chunk play probably, because he's got 2 or 3 steps on that defender, and there's nobody else. Mesh. That underneath mesh route is just beautiful. So, like, yeah, if Quinn Ewers puts that in the right spot, that's going a little bit. So he had a great game, continues to be Mr. Reliable. I'm curious to see, what that role share looks like, continues to look like as he steps up with Isaiah Bond down. He's looking like a legitimate wide receiver 1 for Texas, and that's a great thing. And again, we didn't know that Isaiah Bond was going to be in the portal when Matthew Golden signed, so we have to remember, like, he was the dude and was anticipated to be the dude, which is great to see him living up to that in these big spots.
Yeah, when he came in, I like the other big sites were trying to say, yeah, I don't know how much run he's going to get. And I remember watching him at Houston. I said on this channel before the season, like, this guy's going to be our most reliable wide receiver. I didn't say he'd be our best, but I thought he'd be our most reliable because that's what he is. He does everything at like a B level. He's a good route runner. He's got good hands. He's tough. He's physical. He's a good blocker. Is he great at anything? No, not really, but he's good at literally everything. There's nothing I look at Matthew and be like, he's bad at that. He's just a good all around wide receiver.
Yeah, and you need those guys. You need those all rounders. He's not going to win the foot race. He's not the high point guy. He's not going to moss people. But like he's going to make the consistent catches. He's a blocker too. He's a willing blocker, which I appreciate. Like I cannot say enough good things about him.
No, I can't either. He's been awesome. I hope he stays around for another year. I think that would really help out someone like Arch Manning in his first year taking over, and it make it a little bit easier on Ryan Wingo and the young guys coming in. But overall, it was a good performance. And honestly, this game is, again, an encapsulation of everything this Texas team is. Like, when they're on, they are very dynamic on offense. When they're off and they shoot themselves in the foot, you're just questioning yourself. And this is, Gerald and I have talked about this, is what you get in this game, most likely what you're going to see the rest of the year. Well, guess what? They're just what they are the rest of the year. And they're a good football team. I don't know if they're good enough to win a national championship, but at this point, I'm just mostly enjoying the ride because they're still fun to watch, and they're way better to watch than freaking teams of 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm just enjoying it at this point.
I started my content career in the Charlie Strong era, so like I'm having an incredible time right now. So like this is, and again, we know who Texas is, we know who they are at this point, and this was a solid B game. Like and that's not me trying to like downgrade or denigrate anybody. I honestly think Sark and his coaching staff would grade it worse than a B, but like it was a solid B game, and Texas came out and did what they needed to do. They ran the ball well enough. They threw the ball well enough. They did what they needed to do to win. Looked solid doing it. There's some things to coach up in the next 10 days, but overall, they beat a talented Clemson team with one of the few active coaches that has a college football playoff championship under the belt.
Yeah, I think this game is just like what we've talked about, where you have the two minds of like, yeah, this game probably should have been something like 41-17, honestly. Yeah. But it is what it is. Like, you're going to take the win, you'll move on. It doesn't matter. Style points do not matter at this point. If we play like crap and win a national championship, I'll be happy as hell. So I don't really care. But if I will say this, if we play like this, we're not going to win a national championship because you can't beat Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, teams like that. You can beat Arizona State. If we played this exact game versus Arizona State, we'll beat Arizona State. But you can't play like this versus Oregon.
No, not at all. And again, you mentioned like if Texas plays like crap and wins the national championship, you won't remember that game. Nobody remembers that Vince Young came out the first Rose Bowl year, the Michigan Rose Bowl year, and played an awful game in his first game because they went out and whipped that behind in the Rose Bowl. Right? Nobody remembers that because again, when a championship is a championship. Nobody win ugly, win pretty, just win. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. But overall, I'll take it 38-24. Texas beats Clemson. January 1st is the next time the Longhorns will take the field versus Arizona State. So 10 days away from that. I'm super excited to watch that. I think the matchup there we'll talk about on Monday, but it's obviously going to be Cam Scatabo versus our run defense, which I think is really good for Texas. But Arizona State definitely will watch this tape and be like, hey, number 5 had some issues. We're going to test that. And if Jared Tyson, I believe his name is, their wide receiver, is their best player at wide receiver, is healthy for that game, it might be a little bit more interesting of a game than people think. I think the spread's probably going to be 14 or 15 points. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, that 14 feels about right. And I think, again, Arizona State's offense matches up really well with what Texas wants to do and showed against Clemson. And I'm going to just put this controversial statement out there. I don't think Arizona State's quarterback is going to be as good as Kate Klubnik. So that's something to watch in this as well. But ultimately, like, you go out and you play the game, you see how it goes.
Yeah, I will say this. Levitt's probably the second or third best quarterback we'll face this year, though, because I'm trying to think. Like, we have played crappy quarterbacks. Now, the secondary's done great in those games like they should have. But the thing is, Klubnik probably, like you said, unless we play Dylan Gabriel, I think Klubnik's the best quarterback we'll face out of the college football playoff. I don't think there's a better quarterback.
No, especially like Carson Beck's outdone for the year, it seems like. So, like, I don't know who else there is. We've already seen what Ohio State's quarterback can do. Texas has beaten him, I'm pretty sure. a year ago. So like we've Dylan Gabriel is probably the last big quarterback hurdle we're going to see if Texas makes it out of this next round.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But that will do it for us today, guys. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Texas wins 38-24. And also, every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we go live recapping this week's game. So we'll talk about Clemson a little bit further detail. We'll also break down the Arizona State game a little bit, and then we will also talk about any transfer portal news that happens, any injury updates, stuff of that nature. So again, guys, please hit that like button, please subscribe, and then also, again, check out Gerald right there on Twitter or X, and check out the Republic or Longhorn Republic Pod at Longhorn Pod on any podcast site, Spotify, Apple, anything like that. So please check that out. And then also check out my X or Twitter account right there. I really appreciate it, guys. Texas, again, wins 38-24. Thank you guys for watching, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.